Okay, today we're gonna look at a tune, um, really well-known tune called "The Girl from Ipanema," and it's a good tune to analyze, to work with, to solo over, to do a chord melody arrangement, chord solo. The A section is fairly basic, 8 measures, and the bridge goes through some different key changes, some modulations, and good opportunities also for chord substitutions. Um, so we're going to take a look at some different things you can do with a girl from Ipanema. So to start, I'm just going to play a little bit of a version of it, chord solo version for guitar. And I'm going to start with the bridge and then play a little bit. Then we'll come back, talk to it, take a look at a chart, a lead sheet for it, and get into it a little more deeply. Okay, so there's a little version of it, a little solo, a little bit of the melody at the beginning, and then getting into some chord soloing, some improvisation. Um, so the A section is just the one chord, and it goes to a two dominant. Now that G dominant 7 is not really in the key of F. Because we're doing it in the key of F, which was originally in Brazil, I believe, done in the key of D flat. But that's in the U.S. here. We've been basically doing it in F. I think Frank Sinatra did it in the key of F, and F is a more common key to do it in right now. So F is the one chord. Now G7 is not really in the key of F because G minor, of course, is the two chord in the key of F. So G dominant 7, and sometimes we alter that with a flat 5. So it's really the one chord to a 2 dominant, sometimes altered, and then we go to the 2, to the 5, to the 1, and then flat 2, which is really a tritone substitution for the 5. Dominant chord back to the 1. Now that progression, going from the 1 to the 2 dominant to the 2 to the 5 to the 1, same progression that's used in Take the A Train, Duke Ellington jazz standard, which was originally written quite a few years earlier. I think Ipanema was written late 50s, and then Take the A Train was, I believe, written about 20 years prior, the late 30s. Billy Strayhorn and Duke Ellington put that together. So it's basically the same progression. And if you might have noticed during my little solo example, I went in to did a little quote from the tune Take the A Train, because it's the same basic chord progression on the verse. Okay, but then the bridge goes up a half step. You can call that F sharp or G flat major 7, and then a dominant chord. Okay, so I think, well, at this point we'll take a look at a chart. Okay, so here's a chart for Ipanema from the Real Book, which was a book of jazz tunes put together by some students from Berklee School of Music in Boston back in the 1970s, and it's become a really widely used book. And it's not necessarily correct, but it gives a pretty good idea of how the tune goes, the basic chords and the melody. And so here, notice we have the A section, we just talked about, the 1 to the flat 2 dominant, to the 2 to the flat 2, which is a tritone substitution for the 5. So it's really a dominant function. It's like a 2-5-1 function, but with a flat 2 instead of the 5. And then flat 2, your first ending, repeated, 8 bars for the A section. Then second time through, go to the second ending and just stay on the F, because you're not going back to the F, you're moving actually to G flat major, relative to F sharp major, the bridge. And then here we have an F sharp minor, which is relative to A major 7, A major. So often you can use either one, an F sharp minor or an A major 7. To the D7 dominant Mixolydian, right? And then the G minor, which is once again relative to B flat major 7. So it's really basically going up, G major 7, B7 dominant, and then really A major to a D7, up a minor third, and then up a half step, B flat, which is relative to the G minor, E flat 7, and then 2-5, basically a 2-5, 2-5, leading back to the F. So the form is a common A, B, A, common song form for a lot of standard tunes, from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and sometimes with jazz tunes we'll have a basic chord progression with an A-B form, like for example the rhythm changes where a different melody may be used against the same chord progression. And that's not so common on the bossa novas. Usually their chords and melody pretty much stay intact. Now, one thing that's unusual about this is the standard song form is 32 bars, but this particular tune here is 40 bars because the B section, which starts right here on what they're calling a G flat major 7, the B section is twice as long. It's 16 measures instead of 8. So that's one thing that's a little unusual about this tune is the form. It's more extended. It's 40 bars instead of 32. And then the modulations on the bridge are quite interesting, moving through some different keys and eventually returning to the key of F. So there's if you're going to solo on it, the A section is pretty much in the key of F major, although that dominant 2 chord is you should really play more off, because the G7 is a 5 chord in the key of C, right? So you should really play more off a G Mixolydian mode. Or you could use, there's lots of different things you could do. It's a dominant chord. So you can use that G Mixolydian, you could use a G whole tone, even you could use an altered dominant scale with a raised fourth. Basically a Mixolydian was a raised fourth or even a diminished scale. Lots of different things you can do against that dominant chord. But then here you're back to a 2 chord in the key of F. So that would be a Dorian mode. Relative to the F major notes, same notes, just G is your root. And of course, your chord tones are going to be root, flat 3, 5, flat 7, G, B flat, D, and F. So same notes, but different function and different root. And then the G flat 7, often with a flatted fifth, and then that's a good place to use that altered Mixolydian Lydian dominant scale, sometimes is referred to as just the Mixolydian mode with a raised fourth, and then back to the one. Once again, this is a substitute for the C7, the 5 chord. It's called the tritone substitution, because if you have C7, the tritone of C is G flat. You form a whole new chord on that, and then it's basically a common substitution. So yeah, a lot of F major through the first part as a scale for a foundation for single line solos, and then moving into the bridge, up a half step, basically G flat major 7. We want to use a G flat major scale, or possibly a Lydian mode with the raised fourth. B7, dominant chord. So you would probably use a B Mixolydian or any kind of altered dominant type scale here. F sharp minor 7, they're using the F sharp minor here, which is relative to A major 7. Often I use A major 7, and then to the D7, D dominant Mixolydian. So it's basically here, it's the same real progression, it's just moving up. G flat up to A major, which is relative to F sharp minor, and then the D dominant, and then up a half step, G minor or B flat major 7 scale to the E flat, and then A minor to D7 is a 2-5, and then back to F. So I'm going to do another little version of it. Lots of room for improvising and doing a little bit differently each time. So it's an example of girl from Ipanema, a chord solo, chord melody, working in some melodic lines, and it's a good one to play with a band. Also, make sure you have the chord progression down solid, and then know what scales you're going to fall back on as a foundation for your improvising. And for guitar players, it's important to know the melody, to learn the melody. Um, pretty similar to the way it's written there in the real book, and then also be able to do variations on the melody, and then of course if you're playing solo, you're going to probably do a combine chords and melody, and then also do a chord solo. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and feel free to share it. It's a little chilly here in Michigan the last couple days, and the high today was only 20 or something. So not really a tropical type weather here. But anyway, once again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and be sure to subscribe on the YouTube channel and all that, and appreciate the comments, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye now.